All right, so I decided to do a video in regards to this particular subject. So now it's been brought to my attention. It appears that um, Tank Davis or Abdul Wahid has been elevated to basically flat out champion. You know, most people would call it super champion or whatever, but he is the outright WBA champion. And now he made fun of other people being email champions, but it appears he's an email champion now. And now it's looking like, once again, well, he's headed towards a rematch with, uh, Isaac Cruz. I call him Isaac because in English it's called Isaac. You know, we don't believe he's gonna fight Jose Valenzuela. That would be the next fight, but it looked like a Isaac Cruz rematch is next. So when Devin Haney was the mandatory, or when they asked him to fight Devin Haney, it was like belts don't mean nothing. We don't care about belts. So it's gonna look real funny if Tank accepts this. But they went back on their word several times, and Leonard Ellaby, all he does is lie. And like I said, tries to demean other brothers, but then they try to justify these bullshit fights with the PBC. Once again, another in-house fight. And I keep saying this. They keep talking about how many pay-per-view Tank is selling and tickets and all this kind of stuff, and he's filling up arenas. But at the end of the day, look what type of competition he's facing. It's funny how these Al Haymon apologists love to defend the antics of the PBC. But when we asked them to make real fights, and we asked them to make fights between two black fighters, then all of a sudden it's hesitation. Nobody wants to have these real conversations. And then when you call them out for that, then you got these goofballs making videos trying to insinuate you some kind of sellout or something, or some kind of coon or something. And then these dudes that put out that type of material, they don't even have black wives themselves, but they trying to question somebody else's blackness. And that's the, you know, at the end of the day, whether you like it or not about Tank is not giving us the fights that we want to see. And I am tired of hearing this bullshit about Devin Haney won't sell, or of course Stevenson not go sell. But okay, who cares about Isaac Cruz rematch? I can all but promise you that fight ain't gonna do a million pay-per-views, but they'll try to lie about it. And then again, we won't know because they'll be fighting on the Amazon app, and probably what they'll do is they'll just say, "Oh, well, we're not going to release the number." I'll promise you, when we start asking, uh, what are the Amazon streaming numbers, I guarantee you they're going to say, "Oh, we don't have to answer that question," or "We don't know," or "That's confidential information." But I assure you, the numbers were good, because that's what Al Heyman will do. He'll send one of his mouthpieces, his mini mouthpieces, and his head flunky and message boy Leonard Ellaby, because I promise you that's what's going to happen. And then the Al Heyman apologist going to be like, "Oh, they don't have to tell you. Oh, it doesn't matter what Tank is doing." Because that's what they do. You guys are really ass backwards. At the end of the day, you have to admit that Tank ain't fought stellar competition. He's fought solid competition, but not stellar competition. Like I said before, we all knew he could beat Ryan Garcia. But there was a question mark about, could he beat Lomachenko? I thought he could beat Lomachenko. I still think Tank can beat Lomachenko. I think Lomachenko is one bad performance away from retirement. Because at the end of the day, Lomachenko he can't fight with a full tank. He has to preserve himself for the second half of fights now, due to the fact that he's had so many of those amateur fights, over 400 amateur fights. And basically, it's starting to kick in as Lomachenko enters his late 30s. I think Lomachenko is 30, 30, 30. I think he'll be 35 this year. So that'll still put him like in his mid 30s. But at the same time, he's had so many fights. Whether you like it or not, amateurs are different from pros, but at the same time, they're still physical fights. And he has so many of them. Lomachenko could have elected to go pro. Um, he could have elected to go pro at age 22, but he decided to become a two-time Olympian, and he became professional very late in his career. And that's just fact. But I think now would be the time to try to make that fight. I think Bob Arum would be willing to do a Tank versus I think he would be able to do a Tank versus Lomachenko fight. But the question is, does Al want to do the fight? Because it always comes down to Al. Does Al believe in the fight? Everything goes through Al Haymon, whether you like it or not. For the most part, he's the decision maker, and it shouldn't be that way because at the end of the day, they supposed to work for themselves. And that's why when you be hearing these dudes talking about they own boss and all that stuff, the PBC, they lying and they full of shit. Because if they own boss, like I said, why did it take forever to get Spence versus Crawford made? Why don't we have Tank versus Lomachenko or some of the other fights? Why didn't we ever get Terrence Crawford versus Danny Garcia? So this is factual. And then, when you call this stuff out, Tank, his people get mad at you. Then they say, hey, don't let this dude in and all this kind of stuff. Oh, I don't mess with you guys because you be talking shit about me. Well, here's the thing, fighters, do you think we always supposed to kiss y'all ass? I noticed that about team, Davis sometime. Tank Nam want everybody to kiss their pinky ring, and Carissa Shields want everybody to kiss her ass. And we're not. I'm not. I'm just gonna call it how I see it. Like I said, I'm honest with Bill. I tell Bill the real. I'm not gonna say what I left him a text message concerning, but it was something that I was concerned about that Bill quoted, and I, text him and express my concern. At the end of the day, I got a right to my opinion. You know, just saying. I don't kiss nobody's ass. But that's what happens with a lot of these fighters and a lot of these promotional companies. Like I say, the PBC be wanting people to kiss their ass and bow down to them. And then if you don't, then they ostracize you. But then they let people dog you out. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is not a good look for Tank if he accepts the promotion. Now, I'm not really going to go into deep detail about what happened with Calvin Ford. I wish him the best. Hope he, you know what I'm saying? I hope he gets out of this situation. It always bothers me and hurts me when I hear about a black man going to jail. So I hope things work out for Calvin Ford the same way I was glad when Bomac was home. I text Bomac and told him welcome home and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad. I'm gonna try to get Bomac back on here, but everybody is trying to talk to Bomac right about now. And I made contact with Victor Conti. Victor Conti probably will be coming on here pretty soon. But like I said before, this is just not a good look for Team Davis. They just always find themselves contradicting themselves. Like I said before, the Amazon stuff is not going to be like how it was when they had a network. When they had a network, when they had Fox, when they had Showtime, they had money from the network. But apparently the network felt like they wasn't getting a big enough return to basically continue. So now this Amazon deal, we still don't know the details, but you're hearing that the PBC is going to have to fork out, or Al Haymon is going to have to fork out a lot of money for these fights. Here's the thing. I don't want to be pocket watching, but Spence versus Crawford 2 may not happen anytime soon because they gonna have to pay Terrence Crawford a lot of money. And this is what Terrence Crawford meant by, he's at the point where he want big fights now. It's not like he's ducking Jaron Ennis, but at the end of the day, what is he gonna get out of fighting Jaron Ennis? If he beats Jaron Ennis, he's not gonna get credit. I mean, look at what they're doing to him based off the fact that he dominated Errol Spence. So I feel like Terrence Crawford feel like, man, I'm not going down this rabbit hole again. I'm not going. I'm looking for big fights. The thing is with Spence Crawford too, it comes down to where they're going to get the money from. Is Al Haymon willing to fork out possibly $40 million for this fight out of his own pocket? Oh man, I already then spoke on that Eminem stuff. I'm not gonna keep speaking on Eminem. Um, I'll do a solo video about it. MC Shan, I mean, it is what it is. A lot of these people have a slave mentality towards Marshall Bruce Matters. It's almost like he Calvin Candy from Django. Because the funny thing is, Eminem don't never respond to this stuff, but all these niggas do. So, I'll speak on that later on, but I want to talk about, boxing. The thing is, well, it's like Nipsey Hussle said on that song, "Where the Money At?" Once again, who's gonna pay for this fight? Showtime felt like they didn't get a big enough return from Spence versus Crawford, and then again, Al Haymon and the PBC went out of their way to downplay that fight. If it was up to Al Haymon, it probably won't be a Spence versus Crawford too. I keep telling you, Terrence Crawford is not a PBC fighter. It's a fight by fight deal. It's only a 2-fight deal. They do not consider him a PBC fighter. And believe me, they mad as hell that Crawford took those belts. Because the real plan was for Errol Spence to fight Keith Thurman. And I can tell you right now, Al is pissed at Errol Spence. I will just say allegedly because he didn't follow the script. They wanted him to fight Keith Thurman, beat Keith Thurman, and then in all likelihood, they was going to find some common ground. They was going to talk Canelo into taking a fight with Errol Spence, and that was probably going to be Errol Spence's retirement package. And based off the fact that they went and made the fight anyway, it went against Al's plans. Just like Steve Fulton, we don't know when we're going to see him again because he went against Al's plan. He did not want him to take that anyway fight. But once again, how can you sit up there and interfere with me making life-changing money like that? How can you sit up there? I'm making 100 racks, maybe fighting on the PBC. You know what I'm saying? Fighting on the PBC outlet, but then Top Rank, and then anyways, people offer me $3.5 million. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. And hell no, Al, you're not gonna stop me from taking that fight. You out of your fucking mind if you think I'm finna pass up that kind of money. And I think Steve Fulton, and I think Steve Fulton already knew that he was gonna be shelved. Because when are we gonna see Steve Fulton in the ring again? That fight happened in July. How come we ain't saw Steve Fulton again? Because what the PBC like to do, they like to collect belts, and then they like to try to collect all the belts, and then they like to hold them hostage. And they like to make fights in between PBC fighters, and they don't like to do no outside fight unless it's absolutely necessary. Y'all, this is what's been going on since 2016. I mean, I'm not lying. Tell me that I'm lying. If I figured this out, how come y'all can't figure this out? And once again, I don't want to hear that black shit. Don't come on here talking that black shit. I'm just telling you this. Steve Fulton tweeted about maybe a month and a half ago. I think he tweeted back in November. He said he don't know when he gonna fight again because he been put on the shelf because he didn't listen to Al Haymon. It's funny how Al Heyman refuses to address the media, but then but he has a narcissistic attitude where he makes fighters thank him and stuff. That's in their contract that they have to thank him and stuff. And that they can't speak bad on them. The NDAs, the non-disclosure agreements, and all that kind of stuff. So, and then the thing is, you seen what happened with Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner talking about, he was getting monthly payments and all that stuff to where he was finally told, oh, it ain't no more money. Man, you should have been asking to see receipts, account balances, and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's what happened to Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr. I'm not going to say who it was, but somebody that was close to the Russell family told me this back in Bakersfield, that Al Heyman be doing this kind of stuff. They were saying, hey, man, he got a lot of power. He got a lot of power. Don't say who it came from. And I'm not going to say who it came from. All I'm going to say is it was somebody that was affiliated with the Russell camp. Once again, I keep asking these questions. Why haven't we seen Gary Russell Jr. in 2 years? We haven't seen Steve Fulton before he fought anyway. He hadn't been in the ring in like a year. So once again, why is people getting mad at me for putting out the obvious truth and what's going on? I mean, what are my receipts? What are my receipts? What proof did I have that these guys are inactive? The motherfucking calendar. That's all I need. And box rec. All I got to do is look up their box rec and it'll show you when was the last time they fought. Like I said, Errol Spence out of the ring for a year before he fought Crawford. Now that's funny. You would think that'll be their go-to excuse, but you didn't heard every excuse except that. But which I don't think the layoff is gonna make a bit of a difference anyway. I just think Errol Spence was gonna get his ass handed to him regardless. You guys have to understand the economics and the politics of boxing, the politics. Just like when I was speaking to Big Dean, Dillian White's brother, he was talking about the politics in boxing, and it's way too many. Boxing is similar to the music industry. You got to be aligned with certain people to go far in the business for the most part. There's people, listen, there's people that could sing circles around Beyonce, but we don't know who they are because they are not aligned with the right people. Just like there's probably somebody that could have beat Floyd Mayweather, but unfortunately he wasn't aligned with the right people. So that's some of the politics that go on with boxing, and a lot of people just don't want to hear this stuff, and they don't want to have real conversation. And I'm just real sick and tired of these fake ass pro-black Hotep Al Heyman supporters who married to every type of woman except a black woman, and you can't pay them money to be with a black woman. I mean, just don't be talking that super, Hotep stuff, and you don't have a physical attraction to black women. Just saying. I'm just putting that out there. But like I said before, this is a real bad look. It's a real bad look for Tank and his people, but they always get caught in lies. They always get caught in lies. And like I said before, I get tired of the message boy, Leonard Ellaby. And I'm gonna say this again. I don't care if somebody send this to Leonard Ellaby. I'm gonna say this to Leonard Ellaby. I don't give a fuck if you ever do an interview with me, nigga. Now what? Nobody don't need your interview because you need to stop lying and you need to stop trying to demean and devalue black fighters. While you trying to sit up here and try to finesse us into believing that Isaac Cruz is going to be stellar competition in a good fight. Tank, let me tell you something. This is just real talk. I'm really going to keep this 100. If Tank go in that fight with two healthy hands, Cruz is not going to last probably 6 rounds. He come forward. He's a come forward Mexican that throw a lot of punches. And all that's gonna happen is Tank is gonna eventually hit him with a body shot, go upstairs, and Isaac Cruz is gonna walk right into something. That's all that's gonna happen. He's gonna walk into something. He's gonna knock Isaac Cruz out within 6 rounds, probably. And then people gonna be like, damn. And then he may fight Jose Valenzuela next. Now, depending on what happens with Shakur Stevenson, if Shakur Stevenson elects to stay with Top Rank, or he may go elsewhere, but you have to ask yourself, this is just real talk. I'm not in the business of telling fighters what to do with their career, but you have to ask yourself, are you sure you want to leave ESPN, where you fighting at least 2 to 3 times a year, and you may be lucky if you fight once? So I'm just saying. Just saying. Well, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they're setting up. It wouldn't surprise me if that's what they're setting up. You know, that could possibly happen. But then it's just gonna further prove my point about what I've been saying about Tank's team, and the people surrounded by the people that's aligned with Team Tank. They have been dishonest to the fans. They said Tank needs to receive an offer from Team Haney. Then Team Haney and Matchroom and the Saudis make an offer. Once again, they keep talking about, oh, we're past $20 million, and then they being disingenuous about that. The 20 million was just for Tank to sign the contract. That wasn't even including what he can make off the pay-per-view sales. Tank was gonna walk away possibly with $60 million. But due to the fact that they don't like to do these crossover fights unless they're sure that Tank can win, because the problem with the PBC moniker, they want to keep like selling these fighters as undefeated. The Mayweather contingency plan. Yeah, he's undefeated. He hasn't lost yet, and all this kind of stuff. I'm gonna tell you right now, based off what I've seen post Floyd Mayweather and post Andre Ward, um, being undefeated has lost its luster. It's not impressive anymore due to the fact that, you know, people are maneuvering around certain fights. For the most part, Andre Ward tried to fight the best guys that was out there. Floyd Mayweather, he was carefully maneuvered around certain fights and certain fighting styles. So, now the whole undefeated thing lost its luster. And then, you could talk about Joe Calzaghe too. The same thing with Joe Calzaghe. Joe Calzaghe, he retired undefeated, but once again, it's a question of who Joe Calzaghe fought. I mean, his most noticeable wins was against the overrated Jeff Lacey. Kessler was a solid win, but he ducked Carl Froch. Joe Calzaghe flat out ducked Carl Froch. He retired when Carl Froch was calling him out. But then again, I understand, because Carl Froch could hit hard as fuck. You look at, like I said, Joe Kazaghi's best wins was against a 40-plus-year-old Bernard Hopkins. I think at the time he fought Bernard Hopkins might have been 39, 40, 41. It's, because Bernard Hopkins is in his almost 60 now. So going on 60. No, I'm just saying. I'm really thinking about this. I don't feel like looking at Joe Calzaghe's undefeated record is deceptive too, because like I said, his best wins was against an overrated Jeff Lacey, a far past his prime Roy Jones Jr., and Bernard Hopkins. And then you can make an argument that Bernard Hopkins won that fight versus Joe Calzaghe. You really can make an argument that Bernard Hopkins should have got the nod. But I understand why they wanted to make sure Joe Calzaghe retired undefeated unless he got knocked out. We all know why. We all know why. We don't have to say it. We know why. We know what's up. Yeah, I thought Bernard Hopkins did enough to win that fight. I thought he won, but who am I? They don't give a damn what I think. But a lot of people thought Bernard Hopkins beat Joe Calzaghe. And like I said, had Roy been younger when he fought Joe Calzaghe, Roy would have destroyed him, and Andre Ward would have beat Joe Calzaghe. It was funny when Joe Calzaghe said he would have beat Andre Ward. Andre Ward said, "Come out of retirement, then." So, you know, and Arthur Beterbiev, he would have destroyed Joe Calzaghe inside four. Arthur Beterbiev would have destroyed Joe Calzaghe within 4 rounds, and that's being nice. So, I'm just saying. Yeah, Tank do need Devin Haney for the most part, but I told you the PBC moniker is they do not like really matching black fighters up against black fighters. But when you point this out, people get mad at you when they try to call you out your name and all this kind of stuff. Al believe in protecting his black fighters, putting them in the ring with with undermatch. I'm not gonna say overmatch. The overmatch is the black fighter against these undermatched Mexican fighters that they believe for the most part that the black fighter can beat. Al Haymon, I'm starting to think that movie, The Great White Hope, was based off what Al Haymon planned to do in the future, because that movie is Al Haymon has that mentality. That character that Samuel L. Jackson played has a lot of similarities to Al Haymon, and it's kind of funny that movie was meant to be a joke, and it was loosely based off Larry Holmes versus Jerry Clooney. But now it just seemed like the movie is really they came to fruition. It's like fruition now of what they do on the PBC side. They have all these black faces. You know, they had a chain of command with Al Haymon, but then at the end of the day, it looks good. But at the end of the day, you have to wonder if Al taking care of his black fighters, and you have to ask, what's up with all this inactivity? Nothing's wrong with Gary Russell Jr. Nothing's wrong with Steve Fulton. But they say belts don't matter. But then, for the most part, the PBC, what they were doing, they were grabbing all the belts and keeping them in house. And I know that Al Haymon, whether he like it or not, he made the crucial mistake of trusting Eddie Hearn with the Charles Martin fight when they gave Anthony Joshua the Charles Martin fight. But then a lot of people were believing that one of the reasons why Deontay Wilder and Al Haymon kind of like have went at it over the years is because there's this thing that a lot of people believe that Al Haymon never wanted Deontay Wilder, that if it was up to him, he would have preferred to have Anthony Joshua. And this is why you heard certain things. Keep in mind, they did not want to have, keep in mind, Deontay Wilder forced Al Haymon's hand into making that second and third Tyson Fury fight. Because Deontay Wilder is a warrior. And he's, like he said, he wanted to go out on his shield. You know, he don't care about losing and all that kind of stuff. He didn't need Al Haymon to protect him. Because what he wanted to do was he wanted to try to get that, he wanted to try to keep that WC belt within the PBC, within the PBC. So they wanted to keep all those belts, and Deontay Wilder went against the grain. He went against the grain. Now, here's the thing. Look what happened to Deontay Wilder having such a long layoff. He goes in there and he loses to Anthony Joshua. And now you hearing about Anthony Joshua and a possible Francis Ngannou, which we all knew for the most part. Anthony Joshua never really wanted to fight Deontay Wilder. It was excuse after excuse, hurdle after hurdle. And like I said before, Al Haymon trusted Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn screwed him. But kind of funny because it appears that Al Haymon been screwing a lot of his fighters. This is just factual. Don't get mad at me, man. I'm just a messenger. I'm just a guy that's just what's out there and just telling the truth. I'm just hitting you with this truth serum. You know what I'm saying? Except I don't have to use a hypodermic needle. I'm just hitting you with the truth serum, which is my mouthpiece, because like I said, I'm out there and I'm doing the research. And it's been presented to you guys face. Well, we'll have to see. This is just a rumor, that somebody been putting out there. I'll believe it when I see it. But here go the thing. You know why this would be a totally bad look on Anthony Joshua if he does move forward with a Francis Ngannou fight? Because at the end of the day, whether we think he won, which most of us do believe that he defeated Tyson Fury, he still lost that fight. He has an L on his record, and he only has one professional fight in. So why wouldn't you just go on and fight Deontay Wilder? You can't sit up there and say, "Oh, well, Deontay Wilder is coming off a loss." Well, Francis Ngannou is coming off a loss, so it would be difficult for them to try to explain and justify this fight. This would look really bad on Anthony Joshua. So hopefully for his sake, this is just a rumor, because this would be a very bad look, and AJ fans wouldn't be able to talk their way out of this. You just have to admit the truth. This would be a very bad look. I mean, like Charles Barkley would say, that coon be terrible. It'll be terrible, Kenny. It'll be terrible, Kenny. It'll be terrible. If so, we'll see. But yeah, I've been, you know, I'm just keeping it a buck. It's no way if this does happen. If this does happen, Anthony Joshua will come across looking like a complete coward. But then history is showing that Anthony Joshua had some kind of hesitation about fighting Deontay Wilder. I mean, he once threatened, "Well, Deontay Wilder don't stop saying my name, we're gonna freeze him out." And I was thinking, well, hell, you've been freezing him out for years. You've been freezing him out. There's no way Anthony Joshua can get around fighting Francis Ngannou and then, duck Deontay Wilder. There's no way he could talk his way around that. It'll just be a clear cut duck. But anyway, just wanted to put that out there. I'm gonna end this video saying this. Tank Nim is gonna have to find a way to where they're gonna have to like put their foot down. But the thing is, can they put their foot down versus Al Haymon? Because at the end of the day, Al Haymon making Tank Nim look like liars, and they're making Tank look like he's a coward. If he fights Isaac Cruz and he accepts the WBA super champion or the outright championship, just be a bad look. Anyway, appreciate you guys. It's your boy Town. I'm out.